Good to see you, man.
Good to see you.
It's
Yeah.
been
Well,
a minute.
we had a week off. It feels when we miss a week, it doesn't feel right to me.
I'm the same way.
I take
I
take
mean,
credit for that. I was just had a trip to California and I caught something, I guess, and I was just like had a bunch of work and I felt like shit and I was sick and I'm like, yeah, I just don't know if I can do it today, And it's
yeah.
I broke our streak, man. That's on me.
No, that's okay, man. That's what happens when you visit the land of fruits and nuts. You never know. But yeah, I feel like our show's now built into my circadian rhythm. So couldn't sleep at all the last week because off the regular sequence.
I know, man. Well, it's what is this, our 12th or our 13th show? I think it's our 12th since it would have been our 13th if we hadn't skipped last week. And we're at 95,000 right now. And it's a bit boring, man. We're just really in this boring phase where we're sort of consolidating down to flat on the month. And I it lulls you. I think that's what it's doing right now. It kind of just is like it's like this. It's sort of like lulling you into just, oh, this is boring. Nothing's happening. What's this is we're always going to be here, and then it's just going to go boom. It's going to move in one
Yeah.
direction. It's going to go down violently or up violently, and I think I happen to think it's going to go up violently. I don't know, in the next 3 months, I'll say.
Yeah. I think you're right. What everyone, and yeah, I'm bored out of my mind. I mean, it has been painful. The difference between being bored at 95 is it's significant compared to being bored at like 32.
Yeah,
Remember, we were ranging in the 30s forever, and then
yeah.
last summer we ranged in the 60s. And I've seen more people make calls for like dropping down to 78. I just don't think that that's going to happen. I think the majority of Bitcoin holders know that we're going to be at 120 and 500,000 and a million. So we're just waiting for more people to get on the train, and I think what we're seeing are the exchanges play against their customers. People are opening up shorts, opening up long positions, and then the price is just liquidating them, between 97 and 95 and 98 and 102. And if you're playing with leverage, you're responsible for the boring price action.
That's true. I think only fools and busybodies play that game.
Yeah.
It's interesting when I'm looking at the chart. I'm looking at from March 24th of 2024. Let's call it February, actually. Let's just call it last year around this time, 60K. And then I'm looking at it, and then it's like we went up to 70 in April, and then it was back down to the 60s, and then it was, yeah, 60s
Yeah, till
all the
like the
way
election.
through until November of 2024. So from March to November, just kind of hovering in the 60s to 70s. And then we went to December, and that's when we went from uh from 60 to 106, you know,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
in like one in less than a month. So from 60 to 106, that's kind of like us going from 95 right now to, 150. And
Yeah.
all that can happen in the span of a few weeks.
It probably will too. Like if you look at the yearly chart, there are like 10 days where Bitcoin is up per year, and all the other days of the year are either down or flat. And so if you've been in Bitcoin long enough, you just kind of know that when we hit these sideways trading periods, they feel like they're going to last forever, and then some catalyst will occur. I think a lot of people are saying it's going to be the states buying Bitcoin. Maybe it's a Bitcoin reserve. I have kind of given up all hope on those things. I'd be surprised if those happen. But I think we're just going to muddle through until we see something different, something new.
Yeah, I agree. On that point, because we're talking about sort of this cryptocurrency. council, nation state adoption type of stuff. I have an interesting tweet here that I wanted to share, and it comes from Julian, Julian Fair, if I'm
Yeah.
saying
He's at
that.
he's at River somewhere, isn't he?
Let's take a
He's
look.
he's somewhere.
Paulo
Apollo Sad,
Sats, yeah, Paulo
that's
Sats,
what it is.
former Sequoia, building Bitcoin
Yeah.
walls. Um, yeah, he's great. I don't know, I'll follow that because this guy is really, I feel like he's the one that's always breaking this stuff. And then you get other people maybe like taking credit for some of the nation state or state legislation. Uh, anyway, so he's kind of first always lead. And just today, some hours ago, he says Trump is considering abandoning the crypto council. Not surprising. Imagine what Ripple's contribution has been so far. Here's our plan for dumping XRP on the American people in perpetuity. Shocking that this brain trust isn't working out. And it's like, yeah, welcome to the fucking club, Like
Yeah.
welcome to anyone that's ever got involved in Bitcoin and then has just been inundated with all these grifters that are trying to tell you why Bitcoin is too slow or why it's outdated tech or whatever it is. And it's kind of hilarious to just see this process happen on the American level and the Trump level. Just imagine what's going through Trump's mind as he's like, got these people telling me about Bitcoin. Bitcoin's great. People like the coin, but then these other guys, Ripple, they've got a lot of money. They've got a lot of money, quite frankly, and they're telling me
That's
something. So, and just the
yeah, I
people
can
knocking on his door and be like, no, what we really need to be focused on is how overwhelming that is for just any regular person, let alone the president that's a fucking boomer to try and grasp it
hey,
all.
yeah, well said. And you're right, and that's a good impression of Trump. I can picture him saying that. I saw something interesting around the Digital Council that in order to be considered as part of a United States strategic reserve, it must be decentralized, meaning there cannot be a private company that benefits if the US was to incorporate it. I think that I that needs to be stressed more because if, let's just say the XRP guys get their coin into the strategic reserve, I mean, it opens up a huge number of questions because so much of those, 100 billion coins, 120 billion coins were held back by the founders.
Yeah.
And it's not a fair distribution. So it's obvious if you take 5 seconds to look at it that this is not a commodity. This is not like going out and spending energy and digging oil or gold or mining Bitcoin. It's something totally different. So I did read that and that gave me a lot of confidence. But I think, these crypto people, it's like smelling dog shit on a shoe. That it's only going to be a certain amount of time before everybody realizes what crypto is, what NFTs are, and but we still have to wade through this really murky time period where it feels like we're going to be in the mud forever trying to get people to understand Bitcoin is different than crypto and everything else. And, kudos to Trump and having second thoughts. I think this is exactly right. Probably should have a third thought, a fourth thought.
Yeah, amen, brother. I would not like it to go down the way that it seems like I'd prefer having no crypto council than honestly having an XRP and like all this other shitcoin stuff in like this bundle. Because at the end of the day, while it would be good for Bitcoin, I guess short term in terms of price, people, if that's getting put on them, right? If the American people don't know anything about this, and then you've got Bitcoin and all this other stuff, and then inevitably all these other coins go to zero because they're all insider coins, then the association between Bitcoin and this other stuff just becomes really hard to break through. And then they're financially hurting, which is supposed to be this big idea. It's almost like just give the people Bitcoin or give them nothing, right? And I'd be actually fine with that at this point. just to be quite
Yeah.
frank, I don't know, you might disagree. And I don't even know if I fully, I'm just
Uh,
strong opinions loosely held right now.
no, I 100% agree. I think, in some ways, part of me thinks they're not going to be telling you it's Bitcoin only. They have to say crypto just to keep people guessing. If we were to say, we're going after a specific product, let's just call it lithium or some kind of rare earth mineral. We know where it is. We're going to be the only ones racing for it. You start a panic and you start a FOMO. And I think it makes it harder for you to get those materials. So I just think that the crypto language and the digital asset language is a temporary tool to obfuscate the true mission, which is to acquire Bitcoin secretly. Bhutan, got almost $1 trillion of Bitcoin mining it over the last 5 years, 890 something million, sorry, almost $1 billion just by mining it, and no one knew about that until the story came out. I
Yeah.
think that that's the right way to go about it. You stack sats secretly and you don't tell anyone. And at some point, the music's going to stop and we're going to see who's sitting in a chair and who isn't. So I think that it would make a lot more sense. But the tough part is if you're a pleb, you get the dopamine hit every time the president says Bitcoin. And of course, the inverse is true whenever they say crypto or digital assets. So, I mean, it's a tough road we're in right now. It's boring, it's hot, it's mucky, and there's like no end in sight.
Seemingly, yeah, yeah. The enmeshing of Bitcoin, crypto, and um, on the verge of state adoption is sort of a very ugly road to be traveling down.
It
Um,
is. It
it,
is
it
ugly.
it's illuminating. You really see all the special interests at play. It is just reinforced for me how much I hate these other grifts. And I imagine being Ripple. And just, I mean, it's straight up evil, dude, straight up evil.
Yeah.
And I imagine supporting a company like that and rooting for it because what you bought XRP and you just want to get rich or something. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like I need to shower a few times a day the more I think about this.
Yeah, it's good to call the contrast because, Bitcoiners are really out there trying to help everyone while, the crypto guys and the NFT guys are looking to help themselves. And that's the difference. I think we talked about this a couple of times, but it's like my desire is for as many regular people as possible to find Bitcoin. And, Eli Nager here at Brains Mining put out a good thread today, February 13th, really pointing out that, nobody's going to get hardly any Bitcoin. It's done for the regular guy unless you have built conviction, unless you understand why Bitcoin is better, is the best, and if you have disposable income that you don't need for expenses. You have to have these multiple facets in your life in order to secure a good amount of Bitcoin. What we would call small 2 years ago, like point 0.1 Bitcoin when it was 22,000, a coin is nothing, I mean, two grand, you can do that in a couple of months or sooner, depending on who you are and what your life looks like. But today, it's like you got to fork over 9,500 bucks to get point 0.1, which doesn't feel like a lot, and it takes probably a long time. So you're talking about like a months long mission to secure, what you feel like is a small amount. Like that's tough. That's a tough road.
Yeah, it is. I think that it is a really exponential relationship. Maybe I'm not using exponential in the correct way right now, but in the way I'm thinking about it is, if Bitcoin is a proxy for the devaluation of the dollar, which meaning that the more valuable Bitcoin gets, it's sort of a representation that the dollar is going down. Your dollar is becoming worth less. Fiat currencies are becoming worth less. It becomes like this runaway train where if you're not making X amount more money, but your expenses are going up, your food, your rent, because real estate goes up, all these things, they just because because of inflation, it's like now you've even got less of the pie that you would have typically had to buy Bitcoin at lower levels because Bitcoin's going up because the dollar is going down and the amount that you have to allocate is shrinking because all your other expenses are becoming more expensive as well. So it's just this interesting dynamic that it's like it's not just the fact that Bitcoin's becoming more expensive, it becomes very hard to be a working class person and to be able to just have at the end of the month leftover cash to throw around and allocate toward Bitcoin. So yeah, I guess the takeaway with that is um, whatever you can afford to put toward Bitcoin, whatever you can afford to save that otherwise that would go in your bank account, just put that into Bitcoin. Don't save it in dollars or the stock market or anything else. Put that in Bitcoin because you can't really afford to, quote unquote, diversify between a little bit of Bitcoin, a little bit of the stock market and this because you have a runaway train here in Bitcoin.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope more people take that advice and take that to heart because, sort of the age of the pleb is over. It is the institutions are here, the states, the countries. I mean, the rate right now is just going absolutely ballistic. Like it is a big boys game, and I think we should count our blessings if we can exchange any amount of money for Bitcoin. Pretty soon, we could be looking at a situation where you're not going to be able to buy it because the people who have a lot more money than you have negotiated with the exchanges, with the miners to purchase that fresh new supply.
Yeah.
Like that, I think is what we're going to be looking at. And it might take a year to get there. If the ETFs keep purchasing Bitcoin, it could happen quicker at the rate they were. There's only $220 billion worth of Bitcoin available for sale. As the price goes up, of course, that brings more people who hold Bitcoin to sell it. But we're talking about like a small amount of money. Like we've practically sent 180 billion to Ukraine, 220 billion for all the Bitcoin that exists. Like that's nothing. The world can work together to purchase all of that and leave the middle class behind. And that's what I think. It's like, the days that we sideways trade from 92 to 95, this is where you put in, the $20, the $100, whatever you have, because it's going to be meaningful in about a year. Your $100 purchase could go up. It could 10x within 12 months.
Yeah, one day 90K is the new 9K over time. So
Yeah.
that's it, dude. And Jeff Park, head of alpha strategies at Bitwise. What he says here, yeah, I mean, he's got a prediction of 48 million per Bitcoin. So you
Yeah.
think, oh, point 0.1, small fry, not going to be a lot. That's a ton. That's a
Yeah, it's
ton.
4.8 million in this scenario. And yeah, I think what he's saying is like if you take all of the wealth in the world, add up all of that amount, being a millionaire is not really that significant when you look at the entire supply of dollars in the world. But if you were to take all of the wealth in the world and then measure that in Bitcoin, owning one Bitcoin is equal to $48 million of all of the world's wealth today.
Yeah.
So you're getting like a larger portion by buying one Bitcoin for 95,000 is equal in proportion to having 48 million of the entire world's money. That to me is the the signal here. Bitcoin is scarce. We're getting lulled into this feeling like it's never going to go up, so it will probably go down. And often the opposite of what you think happens. So I think we are going to see, I think Samson Mouse said it, like some violent price action from where we are up to a million. It's not that we're going to creep, it's that we're going to hit these new numbers, and they're going to be staggering. And it's hard to imagine wishing for $95,000 Bitcoin. But if, Bitcoin's a fractal. So I think about it a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I mean, we were in the 50s in 2021. I would definitely take $50,000 Bitcoin today.
Yeah, you kidding me? Yeah. Give it to me. Give
Yeah.
it to me.
What do you think? So we didn't really plan to talk about this, but I'm curious. Trump is pushing on lowering the 10-year rates. He wants interest rates to lower. Um, let's say interest rates go to 2% or they go to zero, just for the sake of the argument.
Mhm.
Where do your priorities lie at 0% interest rates as a Bitcoiner?
Accelerate, baby. Accelerate.
So is that just take on debt and buy Bitcoin and
Take on
just
debt. Take on cheap debt. Buy Bitcoin. Yeah.
yeah, see, that's exactly
Accelerate.
what I think also. I think it's like this is the time to, if that were to happen, I wouldn't want to miss it again. I was too young to realize how significant
Same.
0% rates were. I mean, just I'm not a, whatever. I don't get it.
Just trying to live
Now
my
I do
life,
though.
man. Just a humble pleb,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Yeah, but having lived through all that, I would definitely take on more debt, and probably do things that the plebs would say are stupid,
Well, yeah,
try to
dude,
get,
like I think about that. I do think about like I should have probably been more aggressive with taking debt to buy Bitcoin. It really would have worked out in retrospect. It's a dangerous game to play. But I mean, if you could borrow these worthless cuck bucks and just funnel that into Bitcoin, then the worst thing that is going to happen is that your credit score is going to be really bad, right? And is that the worst thing? Like if
no.
you take a loan from a credit union or credit card company or whatever, and then you run up, 100K of debt and you exchange that for Bitcoin, then Bitcoin goes to 1 million, and then you could pay that loan back, or you say, yeah, fuck you. You can give me, you can, yeah. What are you
Let's,
gonna do? Nuke my
all right.
credit?
So
Okay, I've got,
yeah,
I've got a lot of money now, so don't worry about
the, the people that would benefit from this, situation are the illegal immigrants in the United States.
it. Yeah.
Take out all the credit card debt, do the
Yeah.
balance transfer right to your bank account, buy 5 Bitcoin, get deported.
Yeah, get fucking deported. I saw people posting about that, right? Like, are you kidding me? That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. I
Yeah.
mean, I
I
think you should pay your debts, but
yeah.
thinking about like you manipulating the fiat system to your advantage, if you've got a house and you can get a HELOC at a good rate and purchase Bitcoin with it, that I would do that. I've never done it before, but I'm waiting for those interest rates to come down.
I'm just learning that this system doesn't reward those that play fairly and
Right.
and those that play by the rules, right? There's really the rules of the game are be as dirty as possible.
Yeah.
And like we're in this end of the fiat empire run where you are rewarded for being a bit reckless. It's kind of created this nihilistic mentality, which gets a lot of the shitcoin casino spun up. But the fact that now, like even I'm thinking, well, I've been playing by the rules, right? Any debt that I've had, I've worked aggressively to try and pay off, and I've done things the right way, my whole life. But then an illegal immigrant takes out this fucking credit card debt, buys Bitcoin, gets deported or flees the country, and now they've got no obligation, right? There's nothing to be done there. There's no accountability there. So, but here I
Yeah.
am, just
Sayonara.
here I am, just playing by the rules, and kind of get to a point sometimes where I personally start to question the way I'm playing the game.
Yeah, I think similarly, and with Doge and all of the government corruption that's been
Yeah,
uncovered. I saw one
I don't want to pay
politician, it
my
might have been,
taxes, right? I
yeah,
don't want to pay my
yeah,
taxes. Like you see all the corruption from paying for transgender plays in Colombia and whatever, all these ridiculous things, and that's where our tax dollars are going, and they're going to war. And I'm like, and I've got to show up, and I've got to give them 4 months of my paycheck.
Right.
Like, oh, I don't, I'm filing an extension, that's for damn straight. But it's really painful to play by the rules these days. And I didn't mean to interject. I'm just getting a little bit fired up.
You're right, man. You're right. It sucks to be the person doing things the right way. That's what the government has told us, you know. And yeah, they demand your money. They demand whatever, 30% or 26%, whatever the number is. And yeah, it's you'll see a politician, I think the Chuck Schumer guy was saying, justifying some $4 million ridiculous thing that it was a drop in the bucket, you
Yeah.
know, and that's because the corruption is so great that multi millions of dollars of corruption is nothing, you know, and it's really disgusting. So I think the temptation is to say, if no one's playing by the rules, why would I? And I think that that's, if you're a moral person, and I know we both are, that's what I've done my whole life. Yeah, I don't care what the rules of the game are. I'm going to do what I know is right because I have character and integrity, and this is the world that I want to live in. But we're losing, we're losing because everyone else is cheating. And it's a strong temptation to say, screw this. I'm not gonna put up with it anymore. What I love about Bitcoin is that, if we do see the states and the countries adopt it and it becomes the reserve currency, it's a lot harder to pry out someone's taxable income from their private keys. It's a lot harder to fund Sesame Street in Iraq if you need to get people to send you a transaction from their cold storage. That ain't happening. So I look forward to a day where we can just kind of flip the bird and say, tough. If you want taxable income, it's got to be voluntary. And I won't be participating. It's tough though. This is the part where I think we have all these factors that just sort of are, and for me, like grinding me into powder. That's how I feel.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I saw I think they're a representative from New York, and they posted something on X saying, I think it was about, do you realize that if we're cutting US aid, that people in Nigeria will be negatively impacted? And the audacity to be a representative, quote unquote, in New York and to be lobbying for folks in Nigeria, the audacity of that is stunning to me. Just the how loose it's been, that they've become so emboldened that they are lobbying for people in Nigeria. You're a representative in New York. So represent New Yorkers, not Nigerians. How how dare you?
Yeah. And
How
I'd also be suspicious that they're even helping Nigeria. Sure,
USA
the
is
money,
not aid, right?
yeah.
Yeah, international development. So it's
Yeah.
it's it's a play on words anyway. Yeah, they're not
Yeah,
helping.
the money might be bookmarked. It's bookmarked for Nigeria, but ain't nobody getting it except maybe the ruler, the president, and the representatives, family members, and friends and business associates. The Burisma of whatever Nigeria is.
Yeah.
And I agree. It's so disgusting. I think the government has shown us they can't be trusted with our money, and they can't be trusted in creating money. They haven't they haven't done anything to prove that they're good stewards. I think if anything else, like they're just straight up criminals.
Criminals. They're
Like
criminals. And it's the all, yeah. I mean, a lot of these
straight.
politicians are criminals, these unelected bureaucrats are criminals. It's criminal activity. There should be prosecutions. The unwinding of this will be really fun to watch. I think it's Mike Benz was on Joe Rogan just the other day, and he said that it's going to take like 40 years to unwind all this. 40, like
Yeah.
40, but that just shows you how deeply embedded the corruption is. And I'm just at least grateful that we've got, this administration that's unearthing this. And like, I mean, we could be in a very different situation right now where it's just the same as it ever was. And we're in this period of great conflict. And I think it's exciting. At least I've got this optimism that we're moving in the right direction. So we'll see.
I like that. I like that you're optimistic. That's kind of the way I think too. Things are pretty awful, and it is tough to stomach a lot of the revelations that we're seeing. But yeah, it's I think Bitcoin has taught me like this is a long game. I want things to happen immediately because I'm used to scrolling and seeing the things that give me dopamine. And Bitcoin is just like this, you know, it's like moving like an iceberg sometimes. And you can't really feel the effect until years later.
Yeah,
But that's one of the good things too. It forces you to take a longer view.
that's right. Yeah, that's right. At least it's we have our our exit is through Bitcoin, right? And just knowing that we don't need to play by these clown world rules, and if we opt out and we buy Bitcoin, and I think that's the American spirit right there.
Yeah, that's good. I think that Bitcoin is very American.
Yeah,
It has so many qualities that parallel to, I think, the way our country was intended to be.
yeah,
Freedom of speech, freedom of worship, freedom to be free from taxes. I think that um, it's funny that more people haven't figured it out.
yeah.
I think being a Bitcoiner, and I kind of posted this morning, but I feel like an underdog a lot. Like we're Bitcoin and Bitcoiners are the ones advocating for something new and different, and we're always trying to educate and correct things that are wrong. And it's like it's us against the world.
Yeah.
Like Bitcoin has an us against the world mentality. But the truth is, like Bitcoin's already won. It's already absorbing the products. It's already dominating Wall Street. It'll dominate real estate. It'll dominate banks. It'll dominate every treasury from a state to a country to an institution. Like it is, we're watching it and kind of forgetting because it's happening so slowly, but we're watching it really penetrate every facet of the financial world. And we still spend time trying to help people buy like $100 worth.
Yeah.
Like, what a joke. Like we should it's like we're champions of the world. Everyone who holds Bitcoin is like already experiencing victory, but we just don't have the awareness from 98% of the world population.
Yeah, and all this has happened in 16 years, which is a speed run. That's a really short amount of time from a white paper going out on an obscure cypherpunk mailing list to being where we're at today. Absolutely wild to think about that. What a
Yeah.
story.
Yeah, somebody mentioned yesterday and it stuck with me or it made an impression, but when Satoshi mined those first Bitcoin, the first 50 in the block reward, they went to an unspendable address and he wasn't able to benefit from being the first miner. And as soon as that first block, now there was more competition and there was a couple people, a handful of people mining. And you can't replicate that. You can't say, "Hey, let's do something similar to Bitcoin, but let's do a more fair distribution." It's like,
Mm.
no, Bitcoin was distributed fairly. It was distributed to people who were curious, who were willing to take a risk, who are open-minded, and you're not going to get more fair than that. And it's still true today. Like you could still get Bitcoin today if you're curious, if you're open-minded, if you have the interest. Like you might not have 100 grand to buy one Bitcoin, but you could still buy some. And I think history will show us that having some is going to be far better than having none. So I'm still impressed or amazed, interested in the fact that Bitcoin is still fair today, and these other shit coins could never say that. They and the other anything that runs on proof of stake, those still are unfair platforms.
Yeah, every coin that's come after Bitcoin has promised to be like a better Bitcoin. That's always a promise in this way or that way. And it's, yeah, if people are like, well, there's going to be a better Bitcoin. It's like, well, there's been 30,000, more than like 30,000, probably more. that have said they're going to, no one's been able to do it. So you're the ones that aren't living in reality, like face reality. No, anyway, you want to buy some Bitcoin?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's stack. My phone's in the other room. Give me a second. I'm gonna grab it.
Yeah, man.
Man, still feeling a bit congested. I got, you ever get like this, a sinus infection where it's just like in your ears and the whole thing?
Yeah.
It's the
Is it
worst.
sunny out there? You need sun.
It's sun. I'm in the sun every day, baby. You know how I do.
Man.
You know how I do.
Well,
All right. What are we buying today?
I don't know, man. What do you think?
Hmm.
It feels like you want to go more than our usual 21 or
Yeah, I
10.
want to go. I want to go 50.
$50. All right.
Want to do
Let me,
50?
yeah, I'll do 50.
The
Let
way
me
I think about
contact.
it, we didn't stack last week. So
That's true.
we have the sin of not stacking last week on the show. And if we did 21 last week and 21 this week, but we want to get more than that because there was a penalty for not doing it last week.
All right. Hey,
So,
I'll pay the penalty.
all
So
right, I'm
Bitcoin's at 96,
96,
96,000,
96.3 for me.
and I'm buying 51,000 sats.
Same.
All right.
Done. Are you looking at me? Yeah.
All right.
Let's go.
Doing it.
Okay. Now we had more Bitcoin than we did when we
All
came
right.
in. Go.
There it goes.
Go.
Make it rain.
By the way, I
Yeah,
got some
man.
of that
Let's
strike
get-
gear. I got the Silk Road hoodie and I got a Silk Road hat. So I should be getting that any day now.
Oh, nice. I think I saw one person on Twitter who posted there with a camel on the back, the Silk Road logo.
Nice. I think, yeah, if they got theirs, mine will probably be here in like 2 months, being
Nice.
in
Yeah.
Hawaii.
So on my bird flip store yesterday, I took my first Bitcoin transaction.
Hell yeah, dude. Tell me about that.
I don't want to dox the person, but they live in, they're from an English speaking country, moved to a Spanish speaking country. So it was like 35 bucks in shipping to
Mm.
get it from the US to where they are now. But dude picked three items. I gave him the total. I do like 40% off if you're going to buy in Bitcoin. And so it pretty much made his shipping free. But yeah, that was my first Bitcoin order. He paid me through Blue Wallet. I got the sats. I sent him the stuff. It'll show up in 2 weeks.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, I mean like
That's
that's,
awesome. I'd be stoked if I
it's
were you. That's great.
I am stoked, dude. It was exciting. It's funny because, nobody at my house likes the middle finger logo. And I'm not, there are a lot of places where like I'm not allowed to wear it.
But it's subtle.
But
I think it's pretty subtle.
yeah, I mean if Ralph Lauren did this instead of that, stupid little horse guy golfer, I feel
Yeah.
like he would have been much more successful.
I agree. Tell me about the genesis of the Bird Flip brand. Why don't you sell it a little bit?
Oh man. Well, I don't know that the Genesis is that interesting. It's my Twitter nim. So I think just it's part of my general disposition. And I think being a Bitcoiner, and the thing that I sort of feel pretty strongly is everyone in the world wants to tell you no. Everybody wants to tell you no. Your wife, your kids, your parents, your boss. Everybody has a reason why you can't do or shouldn't do what you want to do. Um, and for me, it's just you have to do it anyway. You cannot ask permission. You
Yes.
just have to do it. You just have to do it anyway. And part of the, and yeah, yeah. I mean, I, again, I'm a moral person. I'm not saying like you should be able to break the law or do things that are inappropriate. But what I mean is, if you're going to better yourself, let's say you're going to start on a new meal plan and you're going to change your diet, or let's say you're going to learn a foreign language and you're going to spend a lot of time on Duolingo, or you're going to start a business. Everyone is going to watch you and try to criticize you until you fail. And to me, bird flip is the opposite. It's I'm going to do it anyway. And I think while it is a middle finger, to me, it's just that determination. You kind of screw the naysayers.
I love it. I love it. I'm going to recommend a book to you and to our viewers called Wild at Heart by John Eldredge.
John Eldridge.
Yeah, okay. You know it.
I do, man. Every man needs an adventure and a beauty to behold.
Yeah, I think it's perfect, right? Because what the bird flip brand and that ethos is like the same, like represented the same way in the book, being wild at heart. And don't ask for permission, just go out there and get it. And you can do it in a moral, Christ-like way as well.
Yeah,
And
dude.
actually, that is the masculine way of doing it. And it was recommended to me just a few weeks ago from Bobby Shell at Voltage. We got to have him on the podcast as well. And yeah, I've been loving it, man. I'm probably 80% of the way through, and every time I'm listening to Audible, every time I walk and listen to that, I come back just feeling more inspired. And so yeah, man, I admire what you've built and what you're building with the Bird Flip brand. And if you're a viewer here, where can people purchase some of the Bird Flip gear?
Oh, yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah,
Shopbirdflip.com. And
birdflip.
you can get 10% off with Bird Flock. That's the code.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean everything ships free, and I try to keep it pretty low priced, like reasonable prices. So there's not a lot of margin there. It scratches sort of the creative itch that I've got, but I also think it's cool just having something that I've sort of created, and I've got product that was sold in Mexico, Brazil, Los Angeles, New Jersey. So it's getting out there. I mean, in Colorado, I mean,
yeah.
it's only been a few weeks, but it's starting to kind of percolate. And I think my dream would be to show up at like a Bitcoin conference and see somebody wearing a bird flip hat, a bird flip shirt.
I was gonna say because Bitcoin conference coming up in May, and leading into that, I'm sure you're thinking about it already. But obviously, bringing the gear there, but doing some type of promotion ahead of time, where if you see if you're there and you see someone wearing bird flip gear, then you'll find them and you'll give them some type of surprise, you know,
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I would
Yeah.
probably say, you'd get anything, one free item in the shop.
Something like that. Yeah,
That would
yeah,
be cool.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, we got to talk about. We'll talk about Bitcoin Vegas coming up here. We're getting close, and I've got my hotel booked. Haven't booked the flight yet, but I think by the time Vegas rolls around, it's going to be probably going to feel very toppy at that point because I expect us to be like north of 200K and just being in,
200.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Goodness, 200K by May.
And
Make it a bumper
that's kind
sticker.
of, you can meme that, right? 200K by May. It's gonna
Yeah.
be May. Get that Justin Timberlake meme.
Yeah. Yeah, dude.
Like
I
the
need
question,
to
the question is, when's Bitcoin gonna hit 200K? And then it's Timberlake, it's gonna be May.
I mean, there's going to be a certain point where, what number does